Good morning, everybody. We're back. It's Thursday. I'm excited. Great to see everybody in the virtual world. Obviously, Charlotte and I are back, and we are so delighted that we have rejiggled this and we've got a panel. So, a big welcome to Claire and Tricia for joining us. We'll come on to introductions and get you acquainted to our lovely group on Crowdcast. As I say, great to see some regulars back and also some new people. So for those who haven't joined us before, Charlotte, we'd like to say good morning.
Good morning.
Charlotte and I are partners in crime for Be Career Confident, which was set up in it feels so long ago, the different lockdowns and wherever we are, but late spring last year, wasn't it, when all these challenges were happening with COVID and careers, and so we wanted to put something out there for people that we could be there on a weekly basis and offer our advice and guidance on how we can look after ourselves, which is very appropriate for today in the world of careers. So yes, fast forward 10 months pretty much now, and at the back end of last year we were creating the programme for 2021, and we thought, well, it's January, new year, new start, how everybody does, thinks about these things. And we really need to make sure that we're all looking after our mind and looking after each other, and we'll start that off because that's the right thing to do. Yeah. Then the lockdown happened again. So even more likely, we're very grateful that we decided to do this. And we've mixed it up a little bit this year. So we will be starting each month with a longer session. So today we'll be on air for 45 minutes rather than 30, and we will have a panel. And this is why some of you will recognise Claire Davis from last year, but also we've got Tricia with us as well. And I met Tricia, and I come to you first for an introduction, Tricia, but I met Tricia through Claire, and we had a really, really interesting conversation last year. And it was around mindfulness and looking after our own minds and our own mental well-being, which the whole of January is going to be for us, and today that's what our panel and discussion is going to be. But you'd got a very different angle to it, and you've been involved in business, and we had a great discussion. Hence, I said to Charlotte, I know exactly who else we can have on the panel. So Tricia, can I come to you first for a little bit of an introduction to our audience of your background and what you do?
Sure. So my name's Tricia Maitland, and I'm a clinical hypnotherapist and coach. I practice in Bath, UK, but obviously totally online at the moment. And I use the power of hypnotherapy to really help my clients get rid of whatever's holding them back so that they can kind of step forward into working towards the life that they deserve to live. And some of the main areas of my focus and my specialities are anxiety and all of the forms that manifest, really helping my clients reduce their anxiety, improve their sleep, which is I see as a foundation for mental wellness, and also increase their confidence and motivation so that they can live the life that they deserve to live. I also come from the corporate world, so I've got about 20 years experience, mostly working in human resources in various organizations. So I really understand the pressures that people are under in the corporate world. And it's another reason why I'm really passionate about what I do, because in a way, sometimes I feel like I'm helping. If I could help myself from a few years ago, with the things that I know now, that's why I'm also super passionate, because I know there's tools out there to help people. People don't have to suffer, and we can kind of put ourselves in the best place mentally, no matter what we're going through.
Brilliant. It's brilliant to have you with us.
Thank you.
And I know I commented about this yesterday when we were all meeting in our prep, but my goodness, I just still feel so chilled because Tricia's got this whole serene room, and I just want to go and sit on that couch and maybe just listen to Tricia talk, to be fair. So I'm very, very grateful that you joined us, and I feel calm already, Tricia, and I'm really looking forward to your ideas and little hints and tips that we've got coming through. And Claire, welcome back.
Hello, how are you? Hello, everybody.
But we're very good, Claire. So for those who didn't see you in our crowdcast last year and don't know who you are, little bit of an intro from you, please.
Thank you, Ruth. So hello, everyone, and I'm really pleased to be back. And I do know quite a few of the names on the side because some of you might recognize me because I work with the recruiting gym. I am their mental health trainer. So my specialty is mental health training. I've been training for over 20 years in the recruitment industry, and I do train in other industries as well, because what I found is my sweet spot in training over the years has been with middle managers. And what I found with middle managers, and the reason why I love training middle managers, because we're squeezed from the top and the bottom, and we become middle managers because we're so good at our jobs, but then we're not trained to be managers and to train and to manage people. And what I found over the past 5 or so years is so many of the middle managers I've been training kept asking about, well, what about mental health? What about mental health? And it's something that I'm very, very passionate about. And Tricia and I have known each other for a number of years, and you might recognise the accent. Funnily enough, Tricia's in Bath, I'm in Bristol, but we're both from a suburb away from each other in Sydney, which is really bizarre. Anyway, so I decided to train up through Mental Health First Aid England to train mental health first aid training. And I absolutely love it. But what I found is missing through Mental Health First Aid England courses is the really spotting the signs, then having the conversation, and then the preventative measures. So I've developed a huge package around those. If we can spot the signs early for early intervention, talk about it, and signpost people to people like Tricia, and use preventative measures before it spirals down, it's so much more powerful and recovery is so much quicker.
Fabulous.
Thank you.
Fabulous. Well, great to have you back, Claire. So this morning, this is all about mindfulness, and it's so important for us to look after ourselves, our minds in life, and also very important so that we can have lifelong careers that we can truly love and truly enjoy and get that success, contentment, whatever we seek out of our careers. But to start off, this is such a huge subject, and I think it's important that we get an opinion of what is mindfulness, because there's lots of talk around this subject at the moment, and there's lots of different opinions. So Tricia, can I come to you first, and what do you consider mindfulness is?
I think it's a really good point, Ruth, that sometimes we can get overwhelmed because we think it's this massive big topic that requires all this training. But actually, if you think about it, mindfulness is quite simple in that it's about being present in the moment and having awareness of what's around us, and also having awareness of around thoughts and feelings, but then also being able to observe that from a point of acceptance. So we're not judging ourselves, or we're not judging what's happening around us. We're just noticing it and we're accepting it. And I think it's something also to really understand that we all have it within us. It's not something we have to find. We just need to be able to calm ourselves so that we can access it. And what we know is that when people can get into that mindful state on a regular basis, they're much happier, they're much calmer, they're able to deal with problems as they arise. So given what we're going through at the moment, it's a really useful thing to cultivate. But I think also what's interesting is that research shows, and Harvard research has done this, is that 40% of our time is spent with our mind wandering. That means that 40% of our time, sometimes I think it's more, because I was reflecting on this and I was thinking maybe it's more than this, but research shows 40% of our time we're not present. So we could be wandering into the future about what might happen, or we're wandering into the past about things that have happened, and we're not being present. And so that shows and often when we're doing that, and I see this in my practice room, that mind wandering can often be negative. Oh my God, that happened. Oh God, what's going to happen now? And so that's why cultivating mindfulness can be a really powerful way to get that happiness and calmness within you. So that's kind of, for me, that's what it is in a nutshell.
And I personally can identify with that. Definitely, that is definitely I think as an individual, people have always said about doing mindfulness techniques, help if I could say it, which I normally, those of you normally are on this crowdcast, I'm the one that normally struggles with my words. I'm also the one that will have the dog that will bark when the postman comes. So I've got to mention that I am working from home, obviously. So, you know, throwing all these little challenges in. But being present and not worrying about what's gone before me and what's coming, I didn't realise until I think last year more how draining that is. And to meditate, and there's a lot of meditation that comes through when we think about mindfulness and they come together, and I've always struggled with that. But the mindfulness, how you've just described it, Tricia, that's the bit that clicked with me. I'm still not a meditator and I've still not got to that place, but I can recognize when things are draining me, and I think that's an element which will be a really good discussion for us today. So yeah, brilliant, thank you. Claire, what I mean, sorry Charlotte.
No, I think that's so true, isn't it? Just to add to that is the living today and dealing with today, and it's small chunks, isn't it? And I think last year really, for people who found, you know, didn't necessarily naturally practice mindfulness or incorporate it into the day, I think everybody was forced to take each day as it came, weren't we? And again, now here we are, you know, on Sunday the kids are going back to school, and on Monday they're not, and today they might not be going back till the end of Easter, and you know, but it's too overwhelming, isn't it, if we look too far ahead? Yeah. And likewise, it's too limiting and too restricting to look too far backwards.
Yeah.
So actually, that's what's happening today. What do we want to do today? Where are we today? What can we see? What can we feel? Has been a big part, hasn't it, Ruth? And it's something that you and I have talked a lot about over the last year.
Yeah, it's that balance, isn't it? And from whatever where your mind is at the time, whether it's you're looking after your family, you're trying to juggle a job, you're studying, whatever that may be, a lot of people have the tendency to think, well, if I'm not worrying, I'm not sort of bought into it enough, and I'm not taking care of it. So if I don't worry about it, then I'm not invested in it, and I've been successful to this level so far because I have driven this hard. But you can't stay in that state forever. So Claire, what does it mean to you, mindfulness?
I'm loving so many of the words that are coming through, and it's been back to lots of memories. And one thing that the word that I have used time and time again and really clicked for me was being present. The other thing, Ruth, we need to spend some time together because I was never a meditator, and I'm going to tell you my story about that later. And I am very, very converted, and I will convert you. But for me, before I trained up in mental health, I used to get confused because of my slight dyslexic tendencies. I used to get confused, and I used to think, mindful, why are they telling us to have a full mind? That's ridiculous. Actually, look at the spelling, get the spelling right, Miss Dyslexic Claire, and it's mindful, MINDFUL, being mindful of what you're doing. It's all about being mindful of what you're doing. That goes with being present. Whereas if we have a full mind, which is mind, FULL, separate words, we're too cluttered. There's too much there. There's too much going on. We're thinking about 1,000 things at once. We can't do this because we can't do that. And oh my God, we're worried. We love worrying. We're being brought up to worry. You mentioned that, Ruth. We've all been brought up to worry. You know, I remember my mother worrying, and I thought, well, that's the way I'm meant to do. It means that I'm a fantastic person if I'm worried. You know, and we have been brought up to live on this treadmill and not be focused, have an empty mind, and to declutter. So it's changing our state, mindfulness, changing our habits into being present and being mindful of what we're doing at that time and clearing. It's like I love doing a declutter in the house. Like decluttering your house, decluttering your mind. That's what it is for me, Ruth.
Wow. There's so much, isn't there, Charlotte, of how this works in with careers and how we're driving forward constantly in the pressure that we put on ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think sometimes, particularly at the moment, and we say that at home, we always say, black and white, but be more grey. So don't be too far into either end of the spectrum. It's okay sometimes just to enjoy the constant of now and that methodical quiet. And I think quite a lot of people from a careers point of view probably put that down to boredom, put that down to monotony. But sometimes it's what we crave, isn't it? And a bit of that quiet. And to if we put it in today's context again, actually knowing you're going to work, knowing you've got your income, knowing you've got the stability, knowing you've got the function of, yes, I'm working from home, but I'm still working these hours, that structure actually can bring a bit of the quiet, can't it?
Yeah.
And bring a bit of declutter because it hasn't got the worry. And I think the thing for me is to recognise, and Tricia, you talked about it, is to recognise where we can find mindfulness and to be open to it and to be open to what we can consider to be mindful. Because again, for everybody it is different, isn't it?
But also I think, you can be mindful in anything you're doing. So because we were talking about this morning, it's obviously been on my mind to be mindful. So I was like having my shower and being mindful. I was actually just putting on my makeup and going, how can I do this in a mindful way? So actually we can do it. It's and I think, Claire, you said habits, and I think that's really important. Our habits are our building blocks for our life. And so it's not big whizzy things. It's the things that we can do in our day-to-day life on a regular basis that make the most difference in terms of the person we want to be and how we want to live our life in the weeks, months, years to come. And that's where it's really important. And that's why no matter what's happening, even what we're all going through at the moment, we can still make the choice to bring mindfulness into our day. And that's where the power comes, because we've got control over that. We don't have control over everything else, but we do have control over that.
So here's $1 million question. How do we be mindful? How do we get ourselves in a position where we're open to it? Because I think, Claire, you said it, and I could, we can feel our hearts racing sometimes, can't we? Oh, I need to be doing this. I need to be doing this. Oh, I've got homeschool. Oh, I've got this. Oh, and we can feel your heart pounding. So how do we get ourselves in a position where we can actually achieve some mindfulness?
Can I go back a step? Because I think we also need to remember, and it goes with what Ruth said earlier, that we feel that if we're not worried or we're not thinking, we're not performing, that we're not going to achieve. So what we need to remember, and you can look this up on Google on images, look up the stress curve. We all need a certain amount of stress in our lives. We do, to reach, so the curve goes like this, to reach that peak performance at the top. Because if we don't reach that peak performance at the top, the left-hand side of the curve, I might be doing it wrong for your screens, but the left-hand side of the curve is boredom. Think about your jobs that you've had in the past. Have you ever been in a job that you were bored in? Because if you were, you're not motivated, you're not going to reach peak performance. So we do need our adrenaline to be going to get that peak performance. But what we need to be careful of, and it goes back to your question, Charlotte, how do we do it, is burnout. So that's the other side. So think about, I know one company, I was burnt out. I was working 15-hour days. I was sleeping most of the weekend. I was exhausted, didn't have a lunch break. I was burnt out. There was no mindfulness there. The next company I went to was lovely because it changed my habits and it made me realize I didn't need to be on that treadmill. However, I became very bored. I left because I didn't get to the right peak performance. So we also need to be mindful that we need to get to that peak performance, but we don't want to get to the burnout stage.
Yeah.
Which is really, really important. So how do we do it? It's spotting the signs of ourself of when we're getting to the burnout stage. What are the signs of me? What happens to me when I'm getting to that burnout stage. So what can I do to pull back so that it doesn't become that spiral down, which is really, really important. So I don't want to take over now. So maybe if you go to Tricia, you do it.
I've got the stress curve in the link because I think that's really good. So yeah, I'll pop that in there. Sorry.
Right. So maybe Tricia, I don't want to take over. Tricia, if you say how can people do it, and then I'll come back with some ideas.
Well, I think this, Tricia, quite a nice moment to incorporate a question that's come through from Sean saying, I've never been one for worrying, yet can get very frustrated with failings within work. Is there a difference? And I think that's quite a nice comment for when we're talking about how we find that mindfulness.
Sean, firstly, I'm not sure if you mean failings with yourself or failings with the company. So it's slightly different. But I think, when we're thinking about stress or anxiety, or we're thinking about when we're moving into the fight or flight, as Claire says, we need a bit of stress to gets us up and moving. But when we get too stressed for too often, we can move into fight or flight mode. Now, interestingly, with human beings, because that for us, we might be in that fight or flight mode for a while, it can translate in a few ways. It could be anger, anxiety, or depression as generally the types of ways that we can experience that. So frustration, it leans more to the anger end of the spectrum. Now, frustration can be good because that can actually be motivating. So it could be a way that your mind's telling yourself that something's not quite right and there's something that you need to look at. So yeah, often I find that people tend to take different routes. Like some people can be more the worriers, some people can get angry more, some people get more depressed. So it kind of depends where you sit. So again, is it motivating you, this frustration to want to change things? Or is it kind of getting you down and you're seeing it affect you in your life? Are you not sleeping well? Are you being snappy with people? Are you not getting things done? So I think it depends. We all respond in different ways. So you could turn that frustration into a positive thing and say, well, what is it? What's the one thing, if I'm feeling frustrated, what's the one thing that I can do to reduce my frustration or to move me towards, if you don't want to feel frustrated, how do you want to be? How do you want to feel? And so what's the one thing that's going to get you towards how you want to be feeling? And that's a question, and that's why, again, you can take, so even if the frustration is with your company or your job, take it back and go, what is the one thing I can do right now to make me feel better? So that's just some thoughts around that.
And that self-awareness.
It's good. A good comment though is that frustration. That word of that does affect us, doesn't it? We get so frustrated, and what is influencing us, external or internal.
We've seen it, haven't we, over this last year in terms of how people responded to things. You've had people, you look at the news last night, what's going on in America, and you think that's come out of a lot of people's frustration, that's come out of a desperation, that's come, and we think about people in careers over the last year, and you think you probably have people who have gone to a depth of really, downward spiral of going, actually, I can't see the way out of this. Or we've had people who've been so tied up in anxiety that they've not been able to move forward. Or the people who've actually fought and said, I'm frustrated, this is out of my control, I don't like it being out of my control. And I think those three actually are really good kind of signposts to say, when we're feeling those things, that is a moment and an opportunity to say, okay, I recognize them in myself. And that self-awareness element is so key, isn't it? To say, I can see them coming. Now is a moment when this kind of thing, the mindfulness, or how do I want to feel? What do I want to be? And, Ruth, we looked at it a lot, didn't we, in terms of talking about actually, what have I achieved already? Not what do I want to achieve, but particularly what have I achieved already, just to bring back a moment of confidence and bring back a moment of remembering how capable we are. Because sometimes I think, and I don't know what you usually think, obviously, as the specialists, but to say sometimes, in my mind, mindfulness comes from looking back quickly at positives to then move forward positively.
It's a really powerful tool, actually, Charlotte, and it's something that I get my clients to do, is actually think about what's been good. So when we're stressed, when we're frustrated, when we're anxious, we always go to the negative, and we're hardwired to do that. Our brain is, and so that's okay. but it's recognizing that's what we'll do. So it's actually, what has been good about my day? What am I proud of achieving? What are my strengths? What am I looking forward to? And when we reflect on those things and do it on a regular basis, it's scientifically proven that we are happier, that we do cope better, that we work towards our goals. So that what you describe, you know, having that point where you do that on a regular basis is a really powerful thing to do, as you'd say, to reduce the stress and anxiety, and also then to be able to focus on, well, what solutions can I, what action can I take? So yeah, it's a really powerful thing to do.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's really good to do in the workplace as well, isn't it? And if we think about when we're working with people and working in teams, that stop moment at the end of a working week to reflect back and say, what's been great?
Mm-hmm.
And the two, I learned this from, as we all do, we learn things from everybody else, don't we? But I picked up from somebody a couple of years ago, just two really powerful, for me, powerful phrases. What's worked well, and even better if. And for me, they're the things I just stop and say, okay, so at any point, so what's working well? What's going great? Well, even better if, just that little bit of modification. And I found that language is a lot softer because, again, you know, Claire, you've alluded to it, the way that a lot of us have developed in our careers has been a more, maybe a harsher structure of development and what we expect out of ourselves, which is, you know, how people do get to be successful, but it is burnout. That's where burnout occurs.
One of my techniques every day goes with that, actually, and goes with what Trisha, and I know it's one of Trisha's techniques as well, because we've discussed it, is fantastic gratitude diary. And every day I do mine at night. I write down, I just use a week to a page diary and make sure I fill in all the lines, all the things that have been fantastic from the day. Some people do them in the morning. They might be even the tiniest things, like so-and-so smiled at me. Now, I'm going to give you an example of last night. Last night, before I went to bed, I had the biggest fight with my 17-year-old son over whether or not he can see his girlfriend during lockdown. So I actually went to write my gratitude diary and thought, oh my goodness, that's been the worst end of the day. And usually, if I hadn't been writing my gratitude diary for years and years ago, I wouldn't have then slept because of it, because it would have been churning in my mind. But I managed to get 10 fantastic points down. And one of them was that my son actually apologized to me at the end of it. And I slept like a baby then. So for me, what's so powerful about the gratitude diary for me at night is that so often we go to bed with all of these things churning in our heads and these worries and all this negativity, like Trisha has mentioned, the negative thoughts are what come up first. But every day, even if I've had a bad day, I manage to get at least 10 points down of things that I'm grateful for or positive things that have happened. So,
wow, 10. Maybe 3, but
miserable so-and-so.
Some of them are really menial things, like my 17-year-old son gave me a hug. You know?
Okay, I can go with that.
Some of them are tired things.
Lexi didn't bark during this morning's crowdcast, Ruth. I've got one for you.
We've got 15 minutes to go, Charlotte. We've got 15 minutes to go and the postman has not arrived yet.
Trisha, when we were talking earlier in the week, you talked about something which to me resonated straight away. The 2 comments. The first thing you did, and when we went to prep, when you came into that first meeting with us, you came in and Ruth and I straight away went, didn't we? Straight away. And it was about creating that. And we're like, how have you done that? Well, getting someone to stop and find that place of mindfulness. And when we were discussing it, you talked about something about getting people to envisage a colour, or getting them, it was a very, you said it was a very simple technique, and something that got them in a place where they were then able to make good decisions and really kind of positive. And I love your expression of making people be their best selves and live the life they deserve to live. But can you tell us a little bit more about that you talked that colour, and I can't quite remember it. And
that's more of a visualization that we could do a bit later if we've got time, but it's just about in terms of being mindful and creating mindfulness, is firstly accepting that you're not going to be perfect and the thoughts are going to come in, but some really powerful ways that you can do it is with breathing. So starting to take deep breaths, because you'll find when we're stressed we take shallow breaths. So we can start taking deep breaths in and slow breaths out. And I combine that with a colour because it's just a good focus. But we could be breathing, we could get up, and the first thing we do is we set an intention for the day. So how do I want my day to be? So before we had this call, I set an intention of how I wanted to be and what I wanted to achieve, if you will. So that's another way of being mindful, because you're setting your intention and your mind is then going to be looking for the positives in that, in terms of setting that intention. You can be mindful in what you're doing. So you can be mindful, and that's kind of using all your senses. So when we're in our head, we're not in our body, if you will. So often, and that's part of the visualization, imagining, feeling yourself in your body and your feet on the ground. Where are your hands? And that you're focusing in your body. And then you can do, as I say, do the breathing so that you're kind of being aware. But it's also, being mindful. Again, because I was thinking about it, I was scoffing my lunch yesterday because I was really busy. And then I was like, no, this is not being mindful. So I actually stopped and I started appreciating what I was eating and the taste. I roasted some broccoli, and I was like, oh, that's quite tasty and crunchy. And, so it's like using all your senses, your taste and your touch to enjoy your morning cup of coffee. What's that like in your mouth? What's the taste? What does it smell like? And you can start then bringing some mindfulness in terms of, and it just brings you back to yourself, and it can stop the thoughts. But yeah, I use that color, as I said, if we have time, I use that color to just kind of give some focus as well whilst you're doing the breathing or the focusing. So there's some really simple ways that you can start bringing some mindfulness in.
I think we've got time, haven't we? Should we have a go, everybody?
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay, well, if everyone, I can't see you all, but hopefully you can, you're sitting comfortably in a chair. So what I'd love you all to do is to, when you're feeling, getting that comfortable pace in your chair, what I want you to do is to just gently close your eyes. Okay, so just feeling your feet connected to the floor. Feeling your hands, they could be resting comfortably in your lap or by your side. Now, I want you to bring your awareness to your breath. Feeling your breath going in and out, in and out. And as you notice your breaths going in and out, you can also notice that you can start to take deeper breaths in and slower breaths out, filling up your lungs with this wonderful breath. And as you're taking those deeper breaths in and slower breaths out, you can imagine and notice your muscles start relaxing. Any tension that you're holding within your body can be released as if it's melting away down into the floor. And now I want you to imagine a color that to you represents peace and calm and relaxation. It may be one color or several colors together, whatever's right for you in this moment. And now you might imagine that color hovering in front of you as if it's in a beautiful, colorful ball, hovering just in front of your forehead. And now as you continue to take those deep breaths in, with each deep breath that you take, feel that wonderful, peaceful colour coming into your body. And as you breathe it in, you feel it go down into the tips of your toes and your feet and your ankles, filling you up with this wonderful, relaxing colour. Feel it filling up your calves and your shins and your knees, filling up your thighs and the back of your thighs, relaxing all your muscles, all your tendons, any tension just melting away. And as you breathe in that wonderful, healing, peaceful colour, you feel it filling up your hips and your stomach and all of the organs within there. Feel it filling up your back, those long muscles either side of the spine, and your vertebrae. So relaxful, so peaceful. Now feel it filling up your chest and your shoulders, before brushing down into the tips of your fingers. As you continue to take those wonderful deep breaths in, feel it filling up your hands and your wrists, and your lower arms and elbows and upper arms. Now all of your body, from your neck below, is filled with this wonderful healing colour, bringing with it a sense of peace, of relaxation. Now you're continuing to breathe that wonderful peaceful colour in as it fills up your neck and your jaw and all of your jaw muscles. Feel them relax. Feel your jaw come into alignment. As it now fills up your cheeks and your nose and your ears. This wonderful colour now filling up your eyes and the muscles around your eyes, and your forehead and your brain, all the way to the very tip of your head, as you're breathing in this wonderful, peaceful colour with each deep breath that you take. And now you're feeling so wonderfully relaxed. You can take this moment to set an intention for how you wish your day to be. And it doesn't have to be a specific goal. You could ask yourself, how do I want to be as I go out into the day? How do I want to be as a friend, as a person? How do I want to express myself? How can you show up to have the greatest impact in your day? And as you ask that question to yourself, you can take a few moments now in silence to see what comes up for you in terms of how you can manifest that intention in your day. And now, holding that wonderful intention inside of yourself, feeling that wonderful relaxed feeling as you're filled with that wonderful, peaceful, healing, relaxing, calm colour. As you're taking those deep breaths in and out, you know that you can bring this back into your day, this wonderful intention, this relaxing colour that you can breathe in whenever you need to. And so now it's time to come back and bring your awareness back into the room, bringing your awareness back into your body, your feet on the floor, your hands in your lap or by your side, your awareness back to your breath. And when you feel ready and back into your body, you can open your eyes.
Well,
that's just, 5 minutes that you can do.
Look at Ruth.
There was part of me that was thinking, please, Lexi, don't bark at the postman. Oh, well, that was very pleasant. I love the word intention.
I do too.
I love that. How do you intend? What's your intention for the day?
And I think actually
that's really powerful.
And what I've loved with you two is that a great way to top and tail the day. Trisha, with your colour and your breathing and your intention. And I love, I love that, the power of breath. I think it's a very, very, very effective to calm you down, to warm you up, to get you active, to, I think it's a very, very powerful tool. But that image of colour and the breathing of the colour, if you can get that and know what that feels like, then I agree with you. You can draw back on that during the day. But I think that intention, and actually Ruth knows, I read the daily meditations from the old Stoic every day, and yesterday was talking about the importance of purpose and having a purpose, and without purpose we're lost. So what is our purpose? And I read it with my kids, and my kids are only small, poor things, but it's just getting them to begin to think about the power of the mind and the power of action. But I love that. So if we then had that as our intention throughout the day, and then with Claire's diary at the end of the day to help with that sleep, because both of, and all of us here would agree, but both of you have highlighted it, the importance of sleep and the role it plays in our mindfulness and our mental well-being and our stress levels. But if we can then, we've topped our day with our intention, we can pull that throughout the day, and then we tail our day off with what's been good about today. Because Claire, I couldn't agree more. I'm the one that lies in bed going, ding, 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 ding. Whether it's thinking about what's not quite worked today, thinking about what I need to improve on tomorrow, thinking about what I need to do tomorrow, what do the kids need to do, but actually what's been good, because then you think about the good stuff and it relaxes you, and then you fall asleep naturally, don't you? So I think we've got it. Yeah.
And bringing activities into our lives every day. What activities we bring into our lives? So would you mind if I mentioned my free YouTube program starting on Monday?
Please do. Yeah, please do.
So some of you will be aware, because both Charlotte and Ruth have mentioned my book on numerous occasions. I've written a book called Emotional Fitness A to Z for Positive Mental Health, and it's full of activities that we can do every day, bring them into our lives, and the book is like a journal. So I'll just put the links for both of these in. But something that I've taken a step further, because a lot of people don't know how to bring these types of activities, like we just did with Trisha, into their lives every day. Program on my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel is called Mental Health Chats. It's called a HINT program, which stands for High Intensity Neural Training. And it's starting on Monday. It's a 21-day program. And every day for 21 days, there's an activity that lasts between 4 and 8 minutes, depending on the day. There's lots of writing in journals, reflection, focus exercise, like we just did with Trisha, similar to those. And if we can start bringing habits into our day, doing these types of activities every day, it's going to be very, very powerful for our mental health. So again, some people will be using the book as well as doing the program, or just using the book, or just doing the program. And you can repeat the program as many times as you like. And I'm hoping by the end of the year, there'll be a few more HINT programs on there with different activities. So thank you for share those.
Yeah, and just to shout out to your book, Claire, it's fantastic, and it's been so well received, hasn't it, at all levels, whether that's, people in a professional capacity, but I also know, and I mentioned to you when I bought it that I, was looking at it with my son who's 8 and a bit, but you said it's been very well received within schools as well, so please do have a look at that, everybody. It's been a really good...
Yeah. And with teachers and students in schools, so what a lot of the schools are doing is buying it for their teachers and students, and they're doing it together, because students have to understand that
I'm thrilled to have the hint program. I shall be incorporating that into my homeschooling timetable in the mornings. I had a slot first thing, 8 o'clock. That'll kick off the family well. A reception-aged child, is that suitable? I'm sure it will be.
There's some fun activities there, and you can find a quiet place because you don't get silly in some of the activities. So,
Yeah.
quiet place, or do it with friends or with your 8-year-old child.
Good. Well, what a way to kick off the new year. And I think just a massive thank you for slowing us down, for making us think, for reminding us how important it is to really look after ourselves and bring ourselves to a position where we know what our intention is, we know what we're trying to do, but also remembering to say well done to us for doing the thing, you know, for achieving and for having those fantastic moments. No doubt I'm going to be watching this episode back over the course of the next few months, and no doubt the year. We really hope that we will have you both back joining us. We can't thank you enough, Claire and Tricia. Yeah. Thank you. And next week, we're going to be talking about communication. So we've obviously, as Ruth mentioned, we had a fantastic year for Be Queer Confident last year. This year, we're going to be kicking off the first one of every month will be the slightly longer session. And next week, we'll be back to our half an hour, but we're going to be pulling little subtopics. So we wanted to bring communication in after this one because we want to talk about making it effective, making it simple. What is our, putting our message across? We know our intention. How do we put that across effectively? So that'll be next week at 9:30 as usual for our half an hour. But that leaves me to say thank you so much. What a fantastic session. I feel completely zen. I have to confess to you that I'm sitting on a very high bar stool, and I ddid worry at several points whether I was going to fall off my bar stool, but I didn't. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's been brilliant. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for joining.
Charlotte, thank you
Hey.
Thank you for inviting us.
Oh, pleasure.
Thank you.
We love working together, Tricia and I, so we will be a delight for you again.
You will be back, I can assure you both. You will be back.
Great to see everybody. Thanks for all the comments, and we look forward to seeing you all next week. Have a very good, intentional day.
Wonderful.
Take care. Bye. See you next week. Bye.
Bye.